Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 14 picks of the 2022 NFL season. As last week, I went 14-0-1. This is my best week ever, other than when I went 14-1 when I think it was Week 7 or 8 of 2019 where I went 14-1. And just like that week, where I would have gone undefeated if the Bears just got their field goal against the Chargers. I would have gone undefeated if the Commanders could have just beaten the Giants. Freaking overtime, and they couldn't even do it to get a perfect season. Once again, almost right there. And taken away from me. And these last 3 weeks have really helped out after having a terrible start really too much to the year. Alright, so, of course, here's the current regular season stands at the playoff stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Bills with the bye, with Jets at Chiefs, Dolphins at Ravens, and Bengals at Titans. And in the NFC, it's the Eagles with the bye, with Seahawks at Vikings, Giants at 49ers, and Cowboys at Buccaneers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is the Bills over the Eagles. Alright, so now it's time to get to my Week 14 picks. So, as it's going to start off tonight with the Raiders at the Rams for the first time since 2014. The Rams won the last two. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2010, and they haven't won on the road since 1994. As the Rams, if they lose, I believe they'll be eliminated from the playoffs because they can't. Because if they lose, they go 7-10, which can't beat even the Commanders 7-9-1 was the worst they can go. So yeah, if they lose, they're eliminated from the playoffs. Which, hey, they're the first Super Bowl champ to have a losing season and possibly miss the playoffs since the 2003 Buccaneers. As nothing is going right for them, of course, as they lost to the Seahawks last week, as Stafford's officially done for the year, and they have one of the worst offense in the league. And they actually picked up Baker Mayfield in waivers when the Panthers released him. I don't know if he'll be able to play tonight though, because that was such a quick turnaround after being released. But I don't think it's probably going to make really that much of a difference. Meanwhile, the Raiders have now won 3 in a row and getting right back into the playoff mix. After they beat the Chargers last week, their offense is starting to look pretty good. Their defense is pretty bad, though, still. They're starting to play about where I thought they normally would be. So, my prediction is, of course, going to be the Raiders over the Rams. Alright, then we get to the 1 p.m. action, as it's going to start off with the Ravens at the Steelers. As the Steelers won the last 4, the Ravens haven't beaten them since 2019, as the Ravens try to get their first winning season since 2020. So the Ravens barely beat the Broncos. Lamar Jackson went down with injury for several weeks. But of course, the fact that they barely beat the Broncos even without him, because they were struggling before he got knocked out, that's a very bad sign for the Ravens. Like, they're starting to struggle like they did last year around this time. Meanwhile, the Steelers have now won 2 in a row after they beat the Falcons in a close one last week. As the Steelers, all of a sudden, they're starting to look like they're turning around again, even though their stats-wise are not looking really good. And of course, without Lamar, I'm actually going to pick the Steelers for this one. As always, the Steelers, despite their struggles, are always going to find some way to get around 500 to avoid a losing season. Alright, then we get to a big one in the AFC East, as it's the Jets at the Bills. As the Jets won the last one, the Bills haven't beaten them since 2021, and the Jets have not won in Buffalo since 2019. So, the Jets lost a close one to the Vikings when they almost made the comeback. That was insane when they were down by so much. Meanwhile, the Bills spanked the Patriots on Thursday night, as they are looking really good right now. It's definitely one of the best teams in the league. Last game was right down to the wire with the Jets winning at the end. But I don't think that's going to probably be the case this time around since it's in Buffalo, so I'm going to pick the Bills for this one. Then it's the Browns at the Bengals, as the Browns won the last 5. The Bengals haven't beaten them since 2019, as the Bengals are on the verge of getting their first consecutive win season since 2011-12. So the Browns have now won 2 in a row, and just like I predicted before last week when Watson came back, he was probably going to be terrible, but the Browns will probably win because they're a better team than the Texans. And that's exactly what happened. Watson played horrible, but the Browns won by getting all those points without the offense helping them out. So good on the Browns to get that victory. The Bengals, meanwhile, put up a hard-fought fight against the Chiefs, and once again, stay undefeated against the Chiefs since last year, 3-0 now. As they're starting to finally turn around. They've now won, I think, 4 in a row now, trying to get another win season. And it's open up right now for them to possibly retake the lead in the division. So I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one. Then we get to our all-Texas matchup, as the Texans are at the Cowboys for the first time since 2014. The Texans won the last one. The Cowboys haven't beaten them since 2014, and the Texans have never won in Arlington. So, of course, the Texans, I don't even remember. Oh, that's right. They lost to the Browns when Watson returned, because I was just talking about it. They played shit, even though Watson didn't play good, as they are one of the worst teams in the league. Meanwhile, the Cowboys crushed the Colts, although that was more of just the Colts melting down than necessarily the Colts being bad or the Cowboys being really good. But hey, consecutive win season for the first time since 2016 to 17, as despite being 9-3, they're still nowhere close to making the playoffs yet. Texans are a horrible team, though, so I'm easily going to pick the Cowboys for this one. Then, it's the Vikings at the Lions, as the Vikings won the last one. The Lions haven't beaten them since 2021. The Vikings haven't won Detroit since 2020. And the Vikings, if they win this game, they will officially clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2019, and they win the NFC North for the first time since 2017. All they have to do is just win. The Lions, meanwhile, not eliminated yet, but if they lose here, they're definitely not going to be able to get into the divisional win. They're going to have to go for the wild card. So, the Vikings, once again, another close victory as they beat the Jets, as they're not looking really good for a 10-2 team, as I pretty much predicted. That's just like they had all those close games last year, which they lost a good chunk of them. This time, though, they're winning most of them. The Lions, meanwhile, spanked the Jaguars, and now they're back to like having one of the best offense in the league, but their defense is so horrible. And you know, these last few years, these teams have played really close to each other. So you know what? I'm actually going to pick the Lions in an upset, as the Vikings haven't really impressed me that much. Alright, so then it's the Eagles at the Giants. Big NFC matchup, as the Eagles won the last one. The Giants haven't beaten them since 2021, and the Eagles have not won in East Rutherford since 2019, unless the Jets in 2020 won last year. So anyways, for the Eagles, if they win, or the 49ers and Seahawks both lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for the second year in a row. But no division yet. So, the Giants, if they win, they'll get their first non-losing season since 2016, because if they win, the worst they go then is 8-1. So, this is a big one for both teams. The Eagles, won't come. Oh yeah, they crushed the Titans. No surprise there, as they are definitely the best team in the NFC. Meanwhile, the Giants put up a hard-fought fight against the Commanders, but they just couldn't seal in the end, so they had to tie, which is their first tie since 1997, I believe it was their last tie, which was also to the Redskins. So, yeah, still holding on right there despite their struggles. They've gone 0-2-1 since their 7-2 start. Now, despite this being lopsided, the Giants have actually had a good fighting chance the last few years against the Eagles, and the Giants are definitely playing better than they've done the last few years. So, now, I actually think I'm going to pick the Giants this time around in an upset. But watch, the Eagles will crush them and clinch a playoff spot. Meanwhile, then it's the Jaguars at the Titans, as the Titans won the last 5. The Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2019. They haven't won in Nashville since 2013, as the Jaguars try to avoid a 5th straight losing season. And if they lose and the Jets win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs, other than possibly, actually no, maybe if the Titans, if they beat the Titans, no, even if the Titans beat them, maybe there's still a chance they can win the division. So, not quite sure about that one. So, the Jaguars, of course, got crushed by the Lions, and the Titans got crushed by the Eagles, so really no surprise there. I'm still going to pick the Titans for this one. Alright, then we get to the 4 p.m. game. Start off with the game that originally was on Sunday night, but got flexed out, as it's the Chiefs at the Broncos, as the Chiefs won the last 13. The Broncos haven't beaten them since 2015, and they haven't won at home since 2014. So, of course, the Chiefs lost a close one to the Bengals, but if they win and the Chargers lose, they will clinch a playoff spot for the 9th year in a row and clinch the AFC West for the 7th year in a row. So, they're the first AFC team that can possibly clinch a playoff spot this season. As the Broncos, meanwhile, lost a close one to the Ravens. And if the Broncos lose, they are eliminated from the playoffs. So much for all the hype we had earlier in the year. Their defense showing up, but their offense is one of the worst in the league. Now, the Chiefs should not underestimate the Broncos. They played tough the last few years they played each other, especially in Denver. But I'm still going to pick the Chiefs for this one. But don't underestimate the Broncos, Chiefs. Alright, then it's the Panthers at the Seahawks for the first time since 2016. Seahawks won the last 3. The Panthers haven't beaten them since 2015. The Seahawks haven't won at home against them since 2010. So the Panthers are trying to avoid their 5th straight losing season. And the Commanders aren't playing this week, so they still have a chance to make the playoffs even if they lose. So the Panthers, of course, who did they play again? Won't come to my head. But I know, of course, they released Baker Mayfield recently, so much for that trade working out. Meanwhile, the Seahawks beat the Rams as they've matched their win total from last year, trying to improve it this week, as I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one. Alright, then it's a pretty interesting NFC matchup as the Buccaneers at the 49ers for the first time since 2016. 49ers won the last one. The Buccaneers haven't beaten them since 2018, and the 49ers haven't beaten them at home since 2016. So the Buccaneers, of course, trying to get above 500 for the first time since week 3. Meanwhile, the 49ers are trying to get their 2nd straight winning season. First time since 2011-12 they last did that. So, of course, the Buccaneers had to pull off a big comeback against the Saints, and they just barely did, as their offense is horrible, their defense is up there as elite. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they spanked the Dolphins, but unfortunately it cost them big, as now Jimmy G is out for the season. So now Trey Lance is gone, Jimmy G is gone, so yeah. Now they're going to have to rely on the 3rd string, who, if I can't remember his name, but he actually did play pretty good against the Dolphins. So, I don't know. But, Dolphins do have a terrible defense. The Buccaneers have a really good defense. So, if the 49ers want any chance to win this, they're going to need their 3rd string to play that good like against the Dolphins. But I'm not so sure they're going to be able to do that against the Buccaneers defense. So, a battle between two of the league's best defenses, between terrible offenses. I trust Brady still more than I trust their 3rd string, so I'm going to pick the Buccaneers for this one. But if Jimmy G was there, I would have picked the 49ers. Alright, then we get to a big AFC matchup on Sunday night that was flexed in, as it's the Dolphins at the Chargers for the first time since 2017. As the Dolphins won the last one, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2019. They haven't won at home since 2015, as the Dolphins try to get their 3rd straight winning season, as the Chargers try to get back over 500. So the Dolphins, after winning 5 in a row, actually, I think it was, they got crushed by the 49ers, as also, I think, Tua got knocked out of the game too. So, not looking good in that regard, as they got spanked. Meanwhile, the Chargers, hard-fought game, but they just couldn't beat the Raiders, as once again, they are back at 500, as they cannot get above it, as this is big for the playoff spot. Now, the only thing is, I don't know his injury for Tua. Is he out for the game or not? Because that could actually determine who I'm going to pick for this one. I'm looking up on Pro Football Talk right now. Alright, he's expected to start. Alright, so if that's the case, I'm probably going to pick the Dolphins for this one, because when they don't play good defenses, they cook hard. And I just don't trust the Chargers lately. Alright, then we finally wrap it up with Monday night, as it's the Patriots at the Cardinals for the first time since 2016. The Patriots won the last 2. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2012. And the Cardinals haven't beaten the Patriots at home since 1991, as the Cardinals try to avoid their first losing season since 2019, as the Patriots try to get back over 500 once again, after they lost another tough one to the Bills, as offense has been looking a little bit better lately, although our defense hasn't been really as much. And meanwhile, the Cardinals, they were on their bye. I can't remember who they played, though. So, yeah, and the Cardinals, if they lose... Oh, no, they can go 8-9 still, so they're still in the playoff race even if they lose. But I am going to pick the Patriots for this one. Alright, so those are my Week 14 picks. I cannot wait for Raiders at Rams tonight. So my picks are Raiders over the Rams, Steelers over the Ravens, Bills over the Jets, Bengals over the Browns, Cowboys over the Texans, Lions over the Vikings, Giants over the Eagles, Titans over the Jaguars, Chiefs over the Broncos, Seahawks over the Panthers, Buccaneers over the 49ers, Dolphins over the Chargers, and Patriots over the Cardinals. So see you guys next week for Week 15 and my picks then.